Hello everyone, this is Fidemaster Viktor Neustroyev, and here at chesslands.com we are going to start our practical chess guide how to gain 200 points chess elo. Okay. So first I would like to know if the sound and video quality is good. And second, please tell me what your chess elo is at the moment. It can be FIDE rating, USCF rating, chess.com, or even Lichess rating. But don't forget to mention. So the why I'm asking for this information, I'm going to I created the content for players from maybe 1000 to 16 or 1800. If you are between 1000 and 1800, then this content will suit you well. Okay, so we are waiting for more people to come. Let me just do some adjustments. It's interesting. So I wanted to share this stream on Facebook, but something goes wrong. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Okay, I see everything is working. And who do we have today? Okay, John is almost 2000. Wow. Well, FIDE 7050. I'm sorry, I can't read Greek letters. James is 1200. Andrea is 1200, almost 1200. So good question whether I conduct our webinars every week. I conduct them almost every week. Sometimes when I go on vacation or if I have some other plans, I miss. But yeah, usually I do the event every week, and you can find them here on this YouTube channel, The Chess World, or you can also find it in my YouTube channel. Let me show you the link. So all the videos can be found there. Oh, wait, it's always better for me to okay, fine. Okay, so just to let you know, I'm streaming this event on several platforms. Here on our website, chesslands.com, on YouTube channel Tricks of Chess, as well as thechessworld.com, on my Twitch account, which is Tricks of Chess, well, and on our Facebook group, Chesslands. Okay, fine. So first of all, let's start and then we'll do a couple of promotion. I created actually a list. So and I actually also created a plan of our today's webinar. For example, look at the screen. So This is a presentation. This is what we are going to talk about. And this is what you should always remember. And these are tips for you. So I actually have 7 tips for you right away. And if you do them regularly, you'll see progress in 2 months or maybe even earlier. So first, online games settings, especially chess.com settings. So I kindly recommend you to play training games on chess.com, not on Lichess. On Lichess you cannot choose a partner. The engine or the website gives you someone. For example, this is Lichess. So here my current rating is, let's go there. So my current rating is 2490, and if you click here, for example, 3+2, you will be rated randomly with a guy who is about of your level, but he can be below or above of your rating. The situation differs on chess.com. And the first tip, please. Listen carefully, listen and watch carefully. So this is my profile. I click on the, I move my mouse to the pawn, green pawn, then click profile. Here I can use edit. Oh, actually I'm streaming. Good. So I click edit. And then I choose this section, live chess. This is what I want everyone to do. And when you play, the settings by default for outgoing challenges. This is what happens when you click, for example, play, and then you click 5+5 or 3+2 or 15+10 or even 30. Then you click play, and you are faced with anybody who is ready to play. So that's why here I kindly suggest you to change these settings. So for example, -25, or I usually suggest -50, but you may choose -25. The optimal one is -50 to +200. If you want to improve, you should play with stronger players. If you do this, let's say -50 +200, and then click save, don't forget to do this. Then when you go to play or live chess section, for example, live chess, and then you click play the game here, you'll be paired with someone who is just a little bit lower rating than you, or is higher rated than you, up to 200. What does it mean? Why it's so important to play with stronger players? Well, I can tell you from my experience, from my students' experience, when you play with a stronger player, you really train your brain. Your brain has to think, you have to focus on the game more, and your opponent creates different problems for you if he is a high rated player, and your task is to solve them. And if you will be able to solve them properly, you may draw or win the game. So, and these guys, even who are rated higher than you, blunder a lot, especially at club players level. So there is no big difference if you play with, let's say, 1400 or 1500 player on chess.com. They blunder, and your task is to take the advantage of their mistakes. Of course, they don't give up a piece for free, but they make some small mistakes. Your task is to take the advantage of them. So you will be given such a chance to take the advantage of the enemy mistake, but you may make mistake yourself. And if you play with a lower rated player and make a mistake, you are likely to lose more rating than playing against a stronger player. So this is my basic advice that you should do right away. So you may take a pause from this event, go to your chess.com account and adjust these settings. So once again, here, profile, then you click edit here, then you choose live chess, and then you choose outgoing, and well, our challenges outgoing -25 plus 200. Then don't forget to click save. Okay, fine. So we are done with it, with the first one. I'm sure this is helpful for you. Now let's go back and continue with the second one. So which particular length of the game I recommend? For club players, I recommend 15 plus 10. Well, not less than 15 plus 10. It gives you enough time to think and to calculate the lines, because you are getting better when you solve problems on the board. I mean, when you play the game, your opponent is challenging you, like attacking, you have to defend, you think you are finding the best solution, how to defend and maybe counter attack, and when your brain works, this is where you improve. So when you play Blitz, you do not improve. Blitz is recommended for people rated higher than at least 1800. So Blitz is helpful for 2000 players, for example. This is the way for them to learn the openings. Okay, fine. Let's continue. That was the first tip. There was another question. What if there is an option to what if there is an option to play with 400 plus players or unlimited? Well, no, you should restrict it. You should restrict it to 200, actually, not 400, but to 200, because 400 players will beat you. I mean, people who are rated higher than you for 400 players are likely to beat you. But plus 200 not. And this is how you step by step get better. And then, for example, you were 1500, then you used my tip and became a 1600 player. And after that, you keep playing with people who are a little bit higher than you, like 100, 200, and you're getting better. But if you play with your 1400, with your 1600, you are playing with 2000 player, you are likely to lose. Okay, fine. Let's continue. The second, let me show you. The second tip is analyze your games. So it doesn't really matter if it's online game or if it's the game you play over the board, you should analyze it. Well, bullet games shouldn't be analyzed, of course. Bullet doesn't help you to improve, but long blitz games, if you are 2000 player, for example, or rapid games or standard games, this is what you should definitely analyze. Actually, if you play online a lot, you may also play daily games. Recently, I was asked to play a daily game. So, and I won that game. Actually, yeah, here it is. I didn't analyze it before. The guy was actually quite strong. It took me... I have to take some efforts to outplay him. The game is quite long, but I didn't analyze it. And actually the computer shows me that I blundered it once. This is what I don't like. But anyway, don't look at this. What they show. First, analyze the game without the engine. For these purposes, I downloaded, copy PGN, and paste it into the study on Lichess. For example, learn, study, my studies, let's say, what do I have here? Let's say games, which study to use? Let's say this one. So here I upload the game. Oh, okay, let me delete something. Okay, so here I add a new chapter, click PGN, then just paste it, and the game is uploaded. So I was white. I do not use engine to analyze. First, I try to analyze myself, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate now. So I uploaded this game here. Let's analyze. So yeah, this is what I play, knight c3 in French defense, that's fine. So bishop d7, I am actually not familiar with this opening. I mean, bishop d7 is a rare move. People usually play either knight f6 or knight bd7, and then I know how to play. But bishop d7, I definitely understand the idea of this move. But looks like he wants to improve the bishop. Knight f3, bishop c6, bishop d3, so just a normal development. They play knight d7, castle, knight gf6, and this is where I decided to take on f6. I don't think it's a mistake. However, look at this position. No, the bishop will go to e7. Looks like black territory is crowded with his pieces, so he doesn't have enough pieces to maneuver. So playing knight g3, keeping more pieces on the board, would be more natural. But this is what you can also check with opening book. How do people play here? And there is also such a feature on Lichess or chess.com. Actually, it's a book explorer. And here it shows that, yes, knight g3 is the most popular move. Knight f6 is considered to be not so good. But okay, knight f6, it's not a mistake here. c3, he played knight d7. Well, looks weird, but okay, rook e1, so I play only helpful moves. Definitely we fight for the e5 square. Bishop e7, bishop f4, castle. Well, and then I decided to attack h7, so I played bishop c2 with the idea of queen d3. And if he plays g6, I wanted to do something like that. Bishop takes f3. Now I have a bishop pair, so my plan slightly changes. Then I get the rook to the center. Looks like my moves are quite natural. Rook e8, and this is where I decided not to attack on h7 because my opponent wants to get his knight to f8 and protect the h7 without any pawn movements. It's a passive strategy, but it's hard to continue the attack in this case. So I played c4, knight f8, and I should prepare my position to, well, I should be prepared to open the position. I play a3, bishop d6, should I exchange bishops? No, I have two bishops and I can take the advantage of this bishop pair if the position gets more open. So that's why I decided to retreat and maybe to relocate the bishop to b2. Looks like everything here is good. He is attacking on h2. Playing h3 probably isn't a good idea. I can play g3. There is no light squared bishop in their position, so that's why locating the king on g2 would be a good idea. Or I can also play h4, h5 in case if I need to chase the knight away. So rook a d8, b4, bishop e7. They definitely want to relocate the bishop on f6. I play queen e4, not actually attacking, but with the idea to play either f4 or bishop f4. Why it's time to open the position? No, it's not the best moment to open the position, but I should prepare to get the position open. Why? Because I have a bishop pair, and a bishop pair is quite powerful when the position is more open. Here it's closed. For example, this bishop is good, this bishop is not, because if I locate it here, the pawn is still blocks it. So bishop f6, and then I played bishop f4 with a temper. Actually, okay, the idea of g3 was not to blunder the pawn on h2 actually. Okay. Okay. So let's continue. So yeah, here my plan was to play this move, maybe, and if bishop e7, bishop f4. Or actually, yeah, something like that. So this is a critical position. Here he played queen d7, and I played h4, potentially pressuring the knight on g6. He played h5 to stop it, and queen f3. This move is okay. I attack the pawn, I move my queen away, and I'm also ready for bishop takes d4. So if bishop takes d4 is played, I can just continue with bishop f5 and take the advantage of this pin. So he plays g6, and this is where I thought a lot, but finally came up with a wrong move, unfortunately. Okay, guys, this is where I want you to think and suggest three candidate moves for this position. I had maybe four. I at least remember three different moves that I thought and that I calculated in this position, but I played the one which was not the best. However, the best move was among these three. So what are your ideas? Which are my three candidate moves? So your solution: bishop h6, g4, and d5. Okay. Bishop h6, g4. Fine. Bishop c7, bishop e5, and bishop c1. Bishop e5, bishop c1. Bishop g6 doesn't work. It's knight g6 just. Or maybe f takes g6 actually. So my moves were d5, which I didn't consider the first. Bishop e3, bishop e5. I did analyze bishop c7, but rejected it. So these are my three. And so I decided it's time to open the position. I thought that this is how I gain the pawn. But actually, bishop e3 should be played. I should prepare my position for that move. I thought that with d5 I gained the pawn. So here my plan was to play this move. Now these two are hanging. He probably moves the bishop to g7. I take there, and then I also pressure the pawn on d5 with bishop b6 and take there. But the problem is that they can just take on e1 and continue taking my pawns, and I can even lose the game. So that's why I decided to improve this line. And after e takes d5, I played rook e8 first, queen takes e8, and this is where I thought I can play this move. But the problem is that they just play d4 and block my bishop. So that's why I had to take. And after rook d5, I can still play this, but then d4. No, actually, it's not the end of the line. So here, bishop a3, d4, queen takes f6, d takes e3 cannot be played. Right. And this is where I realized that knight h7 actually, and I have to move my queen away. And after that, they take here. For example, queen f4, d takes there. And the bad thing is that I have to take with the queen. Actually, it's okay. But you see, the number of pawns is equal, and I only play with one bishop versus knight. Well, I'm slightly better, but it's not enough to win the game. So finally, I decided to take on d5 and did it with the queen. I thought that the position gets open, and I can probably attack these two pawns with my bishops. So what country are you from? I'm originally from Russia, and now I'm intending to move to Canada, if you are interested in it. Okay. So where we stopped? Yeah, bishop e3 here would be a better move. It's a kind of a preparation for d5. So d5, it takes d5, and I still cannot take. I still cannot take there because of rook e8. So, but bishop e3 requires them to play with the bishop. So bishop g7 probably, and then let's decide. So maybe it's too early to play d5. Let's just support the position with king g2, bishop b3, and then d5. That would be okay. Yeah, I think that's okay, because after all the exchange on d5, in such a case, with the bishop on d5, I'll be attacking these two weaknesses. And this is how I should take the advantage of my mistake. So what do you think? How can we classify the mistake that I played? I think, in my opinion, it's just miscalculation and overestimation of the white's position. If that would allow me to win the pawn, then the move would be correct. But I just didn't notice something, and the pawn, I wasn't able to gain the pawn. That's why I decided to pass the game into equal endgame. Okay, yes, my original plan is come to Ontario. Somewhere near Toronto, probably Mississauga. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So that was my mistake. After that, the position was simplified, and actually looks like my opponent outplayed me. So here b5 I think is correct. I wanted to fix these two pawns on their positions. Knight d7, and then I played really well. I think I didn't make any mistakes. So he's attacking f3, f2, I play f3. That was the only move. Here he is attacking these two, but the bishop covers it. We played several moves that doesn't really change the evaluation of the position, but finally my opponent decided to locate the knight on g7 where it's not doing anything, so he turned knight off, and I played bishop f4 with the idea of playing bishop h6. He thought that he gets a pawn for free, but then actually he loses the knight. After that, my position is winning. And it's just a technique. So I attack here, king goes there, I take, then I gain the f pawn, and then I move my king to checkmate. So looks like the winning plan here is not obvious. What can I do in order to win? How can I capture the b6 pawn? I can only do it if my bishop is on d4 and my king comes to c7 somehow. But actually the king is trapped in the corner or in the on the edge of the board, so I can just checkmate it. And he cannot do anything. He cannot even stalemate him because he always has these two squares. And then he was successfully checkmated. So in my opinion, I made only one mistake. I played d5. I got the advantage but lost it by playing d5. Okay, this is my self-analysis, and this is what I want you to do every time you finish the game. Now, when the game is analyzed, let's check the engine. You can do it on chess.com or Lichess. So let me show you. For example, this is Lichess. Then you click here on this button and then request a computer analysis. Let's check what it shows to us. Actually, maybe knight g3 was not playing knight g3 in this position was also a mistake. Okay, so it draws a curve which tells us that the position was equal. And then it was a significant blunder. My opponent lost the knight and lost the game. So if you look at my, I have 4 inaccuracies, 1 mistake, but average centipawn loss is quite low. So what were my inaccuracies? Let's go. A3. Why A3 is inaccuracy? Now let's use the engine. If you don't understand why A3 is inaccuracy, let's use the engine. So instead, the computer suggests to play d5 right away. Well, I think I didn't have this move in mind, but probably it does make sense because my opponent is undeveloped. So d5, e takes d5, c takes d5, c takes d5. Then what? Rook d5. Probably rook d5, queen b6, and maybe rook e5, but then knight e6. No, well, I don't really see any clear advantage. Maybe I can play this move. Oh, so what I'm talking about. Of course not. Oh, well, bishop a4 makes sense. Yeah, bishop a4 deserves attention. Right, right. So you see the point. Bishop a4, they have to move the rook and leave this knight, this bishop hanging. For example, rook goes there, I take, and there is no checkmate because of my bishop. So probably yes, d5 would be in my favor, I agree. So a3 is the first mistake. Let's continue. Bishop b8 is inaccuracy. Come on, what about and I also have a mistake which I think is a blunder. It's d5. That's absolutely right. And bishop a3, as I said, was a better option. So if knight h7, bishop b3, a5. Yeah, but I don't think he would play a5. He would play something else. But yeah, my plan is to concentrate my pieces and be ready to play d5 to open the position. So yeah, d5 is a critical mistake. Next inaccuracy is bishop b8. Well, yeah, instead of this move I could probably play this, but I don't really see the benefits of this move. He takes, and then what? This? He plays a4 probably. a3. Well, maybe it was better. I didn't actually, I did see this move, but didn't pay attention to it. Okay, what else? Bishop b8, bishop e5 here. Well, I don't care actually. Bishop e5 is okay move. It was a waiting move actually, so it's not an accuracy. Bishop d7, another mistake. It's also not a mistake. It's just a different way of finishing the game in my favor. The most simple plan that I saw. So the position the game was actually good. I made one big mistake, d5, and after which I lost all my advantage, and two inaccuracies. One of them is a3, and this inaccuracy is decisive actually. I could play d5 and probably I would win the game earlier. So this is what you should do. This is how you should analyze the games. Okay, do you have any questions regarding analysis? Why did king run instead of f takes g6? I actually didn't get the point. Where? The king had to run. I chased him away. And here he needed to protect the pawn. Okay, so opening the position makes a lot of sense, but that should be well calculated. And if you're not prepared to open the position, just prepare, because the enemy pieces were stuck. So you see, they are stuck, they cannot do much. Okay, on which stage of the game a 1700 player should focus on? On openings and middle games. But let's continue with our next what is our next point? So the next point is point number 3, thinking algorithm. In other words, it's your chess discipline. So what does it mean? Let me explain. When your opponent makes a move, you should always ask yourself what this guy is going to play next, what is he threatening with, what are his plans and intentions. And then you try to imagine that you are him, and what would you do if you played this move on the board, what would your intention would be. So try to answer this question, and then you can do two things can happen. First, you'll notice a threat or a plan which improves his position, and then you will try to defend your position first, or defend against this concrete threat. Or you may say, okay, he wants to do this because of that, or he follows his plan, which is not really dangerous, at least at the moment. And if so, if you think that his move doesn't contain a threat or is not dangerous, then you should follow your plan and just continue the next step of your plan. However, when you decide which move to play, you should always think about three or four candidate moves, sometimes even more. I usually have 3-4 different candidate moves that I have to calculate. So you calculate like that. For example, you decide, I play this move, he plays that, I play this, he plays that, I play this, and then the position is better for me than it was before. So this is why I like this move, and I gonna play it. So every time you decide to make the move on the board, you ask yourself, what happens if I play this move? and then you're looking for the best solution for your opponent. So let me demonstrate an example, but before we continue, let me just remind you about our educational platform, our online chess school, chesslance.com, where you can schedule your free chess lesson. Here on the main page, you click, you can actually get my 10 tips for self-studying chess. This is a PDF guide that you can get for free. Just leave your name and email. So schedule your free chess lesson with a coach you want to. Here we have coaches from Women FIDE Master to Grandmaster. Recently, International Master David Fitzsimons joined our team. He is a really good coach with perfect English. He is from Ireland, so English is native for him. I kindly recommend. It's actually an easy procedure. So you choose your time zone. Here it shows my time zone current, but if you are in a different time zone, it will be updated automatically, or you can choose, let's say you are in Monaco, Europe, and then the time adjusts. So you click, for example, here, add your name, email, and click proceed to payment. But actually will just freeze $2 on your bank card, and these $2 will be released after the class. So it's totally free. However, if you decide to book a full 1 hour lesson, choose a coach, for example, let's say Grandmaster Sergei Zablotsky, who recently called me and told me he is going to participate in a Russian Cup. So here click book a lesson, and you can book a lesson with a Grandmaster. Choose the time that suits you best and book a class. So I think rates are quite affordable. Grandmaster charges $60, International Masters $40, FIDE Masters $30. And we even have a Women FIDE Master for $24 per hour. Okay, fine. So let me send you the link. And we'll continue. Okay, so let's continue what example I prepared for you. So I prepared the game. I played maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was a rapid game against the guy who was almost to 2200. I defeated him, but actually I was doing not everything was done properly. However, that was rapid. That's fine. Okay, I have a good question from John. How long would you spend analyzing the game? It depends on the game, of course. Well, from 15 to 1 hour, from 15 minutes to 1 hour. Do I make notes of my mistakes to classify them? No, I don't really make notes, but classifying your mistakes is really good, and this is what I left for the very end of our webinar. I will answer the last part of this question later, by the end of the webinar. So he played a weird opening, which is Philidor defense, Oh wait, it's Purk. It's not Philidor. It's Purk defense. Sorry. C6. Castle queenside. Yeah, actually I played too risky. Of course, these and these moves should be played, but I played castle queenside. He plays b5, and then I decided to open the position with e5. He probably knew that line and played b4, attacking my knight. I take his, he takes on c3, I take with my queen, and then I capture the pawn on c6. Well, I was not familiar with that exact variation at that time. Now I know that taking the pawn on c6 leads to a compensation. So here I have to move my queen, bishop g7, bishop c4. Now I'm a pawn up and I have to defend my position and then realize my extra pawn. Castle knight e2 with the idea to probably get the knight to c3, and my opponent plays queen c7 move. And this is the moment where you should ask yourself what this guy is threatening with. Actually, this is what you should do every move, but these are the critical points where we stop. So what do you think? What black wants to do? What they're threatening with? So guys, you are welcome to comment, suggest moves. Okay, the f rook goes to b or c8. That makes sense. What else? Okay, rook f c8. Okay. So you all suggest rook f c8, but actually the threat is rook f, or maybe rook a to b8. There is no big difference with rook b6 then. The other rook comes to c8 in that case, and this is where I would be in the trouble. So that's why I have to react on it and get prepared. So what are my moves candidates? I don't really think I have a lot. And well, probably this move and this move to either exchange bishops or to move the bishop to b3 and escape with the queen. If I play bishop b5, they can play this move, bishop f5, attacking here, and I still leave my queen on the queen side alone. And if then I decide to play bishop d3, then rook f c8 attacking here. So that's why I chose bishop b3 to let the queen escape. He should play rook c8, of course. He played this move, queen c4, offering a queen straight. If I exchange queens, that would be in my favor. I'll be effectively pawn up. But queen b7, what he is threatening with? He is threatening my g2 pawn. So that's why I play f3, bishop e6. Well, what were my other candidate moves? I think only f3 because it controls the e4 square. So f3, bishop e6, queen retreats, knight d5. What is he threatening now? What do you think? After knight d5, what does he want to do? You think a5. Actually, he did play a5 on the next move, but actually not. That's not the best move. Knight b4. Yeah, he's threatening with knight b4 and then knight a2 directly. So, what are my candidate moves? King b1, for example, right? But in such a case, he takes on a3. This is what I didn't want. So, or bishop d2, which I played. Another thing I could do, and this is what I actually didn't realize at all, I could play knight c3 move, and that was much better. So here on knight c3, and if knight b4, this pawn is protected one more time. Queen d2, and the position looks good. But I played bishop d2. He played a5. Knight c3 now, then I'm pressuring here, so he takes, I take, and then bishop f5, and again I have to move my queen c4. Why queen c4? In order to stop a4, because if, for example, I played something else, they would play a4 and the diagonal would be open. For example, queen e2, a4, bishop c4. And then in this position, a3 first. Okay, let's play this move first. And if I decide to move the bishop, then it's a3. Okay, let's go back. So in this position, why this is a threat? So let's say I play something. They play knight b4. I take in here and here. I move my queen back, and they just capture there. Or they capture with the bishop first, and after, well, I think, okay, let's check. Yeah, I think knight e2 works. And if I take b3, doesn't really trap my this dark squared bishop. I think they can just take, and queen b3, because the next move is this or this. And queen b2 cannot be played. The bishop is hanging. So yeah, that was a threat. That was obvious that the king is in trouble. They win the pawn back and they continue the attack. But actually, so queen c4 happened. I stop the pawn on a4, but they still play this move. Bishop takes a4, rook fc8, attacking my queen. Queen b5, and they play queen a7. They are threatening to take on a7. I have no other move but to play this. Bishop h6, king b1, rook a b8, and queen a5. Because if I moved my queen to a different place, can you guess what would happen in this position? This is where I would lose immediately. So what comes to your mind? Queen e2 looks like a natural move, looks like there is enough protection. Both bishops are protected, but actually black wins immediately. Who can tell me the answer? A rook sacrifice. Which exact rook sacrifice? There are several ways to sacrifice the rook in this position. So yes, John is correct. It's rook takes b3, the c pawn is pinned, a takes b3, and rook a8 with a checkmate on a1. You see, I can't even evacuate the king because of the bishop here. So it's over. Well, yeah, I can do this move, but it only delays. So that's why I had to play queen a5. He played queen b7, the game continued, and somehow I managed to win. I don't remember. Maybe I played this move. No, I don't think so. This move doesn't work. Queen b5, bishop b5, rook c3. No, I don't remember, but I managed to win this game. So, doesn't really matter if you are under the pressure or if not, instead you are into the attack and try to checkmate the enemy king. Every time your opponent makes a move, you should follow this algorithm and ask yourself what this guy is threatening with. Then you should find at least 3 candidate moves and choose between them. But before you make the move you decided on the board, ask yourself, what if I play this move? What my opponent reacts if I play this move? Okay, fine. Let's continue. Now, number 4, how to learn openings. This is where I'll show you how to create your own database, chess database. So first of all, if speaking about openings, the best way to learn them is, of course, not from YouTube, not from open sources. I don't think you can learn openings on Lichess. Maybe there is something you can learn on chess.com, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, if you are a beginner, you may learn them using open sources such as YouTube or chess.com. I also recommend you to watch my webinars. Let me show you. Because if I show a certain opening there, it's usually something that really works. So here you click, where is it? There is playlists. Here it is, playlist, it's in Russian. Here you click webinars, and then the list of webinars will be here. Not all of them are here, but most of them are here. So I'll copy the link here. Okay. Another thing where you can learn the openings is a chess coach. This is what I highly recommend, actually. Find a coach you trust and ask him to teach you to play a certain opening, or maybe even build an opening repertoire. You can do it on our website, chesslance.com. You can book a few classes and they will teach you how to play the openings, and they will definitely find what suits you well according to your playing style. Another thing which I actually use myself is watching video courses. So for example, this is the Chess World website, and if you want to learn a new opening, you can enroll into one of the courses. For example, this one, if you play d4, you can enroll into this. If you use my name here, if you type here, you'll see courses that I created. And this is where I kindly recommend you to take this one, How to Beat Knight f3. Of course, Paulson Sicilian, if you are a Sicilian player. Well, yeah, and then it depends on you. I also suggest How to Beat English Opening. So Dmitry Bachurov, Grandmaster Dmitry Bachurov helped me with it. Well, Semislav, yeah, and Count Sicilian, of course. Semislav, where is Semislav? Yeah, Semislav Defense, which I play myself, but it's up to you. Maybe it doesn't suit your style, so you should choose. Anyway, here, for example, you can get an opening by watching the course, because I actually watch these courses myself before they are published on the Chess World, before most of them are published on the Chess World, and I find them quite interesting. You also get PGNs and even game examples. So, and every time you decide to buy anything from the Chess World, you may use coupon code. Let me show you. For example, this one costs a lot, $129, but you use coupon code Victor60, apply, and it offers a 60% discount. You see? 60% discount. So yeah, I'll send you the link. Well, probably you may also use other websites where the courses are selling. I don't really know much of them, because I usually prefer to well, I usually know who I may trust and which openings I'm looking for, and then I either enroll the course or find an expert of this opening and take a few lessons from them. For example, like I did when I was working with Grandmaster Dmitry Bachurov. Okay, fine. Let's say you decided which opening you want to learn, which suits to your playing style, and you chose it, and then you need to play it and find the games played by someone. And today I would like you to learn Evans Gambit, which I recommend for beginners and club players. This is a sharp opening which forces both you as attacker and black as the defender to do their best, and this is where your opponent is likely to make a mistake. It's always hard to play under the pressure. Okay, that was a good question. How to learn Italian game? Well, Italian game, well, I also had this issue, and in order to learn how to play Italian game with white pieces, I took lessons from Grandmaster Dmitry Bachurov. We did the analysis, we created a database with tons of games played by top grandmasters. Well, yeah, so some research and tons of games to learn plans. This is what I will demonstrate a little bit later after we finish the analysis of Evans Gambit. And guys, actually I have a plan to release the course of how to play in this position after bishop c4, the complete opening repertoire, so these and these moves would be covered, as well as d6 actually. Okay, so Evans Gambit, it's bishop c5 move, and you probably know it's b4, sacrificing the b pawn. They take with the bishop, take with the knight, doesn't really matter. The main idea is to chase the bishop away and then play d4, getting 2 pawns in the center, which later provide you with some initiative. Here the most common moves are these, and that's it. Some people play bishop c5, so if you are a club player, you are likely to meet bishop c5 very often. So bishop c5 is not something strong. The strongest one is this. Bishop e7 can be played. In such a case, you continue with d4, and knight e5 has to be played. This is what I'm not sure your opponent is familiar with. After knight a5, you should, well, you can take on e5, you can retreat to d3 or e2. Garry Kasparov, for example, retreated to e2 in his last game that we analyzed on our last webinar. It was actually a quiz. So e takes d4, you play queen b3, attacking on f7, and they experience serious problems. So knight a5, you take, king goes there, and queen a4 taking the knight. So they take the bishop, but they fall under the attack. Fine. So bishop c5 is okay. d4, e takes d4, c takes d4, 2 pawns in the center. Most people continue here with a check, which is fine for you. And king f1 deserves attention, and this is what I want you to study yourself. This is a very good move. However, bishop d2. Why not the knight to d2? The knight should move to c3. Remember that in Evans' gambit, the best position for the knight is on c3. So bishop d2, they are likely to exchange, because if not, then we can play queen b3, attacking both the knight and the f7 pawn. So they take, we take with the queen, taking the control over these diagonals. And the best move is this. However, some people play this move, which is definitely a mistake. What move would you suggest white to play in this position? So for those who missed, we were talking about where to learn courses. I said that there are two ways to do it. You can either book several classes with a coach, like I did to learn Italian games. I booked several classes with Grandmaster Dmitry Bocharov. The other way is to purchase a course on any website you trust. For example, you can buy it on the chessworld.com, and that was a coupon code. Okay, so James suggests to castle in this position. Another suggestion by Wolf Warrior is queen f4 and e5. Queen f4, and if they castle? No, not these. But here you can either play d5 and e5. So 2 pawns in the center allow you to chase the enemy pieces away, and this is how you keep your initiative. So for example, e5. If knight goes there, chase it away. If knight goes there, first play d5 and then trap it with g4. Let me show you. d5 first, because if you don't play d5, if you play g4 right away, they will play d5 and capture on g4. They cannot play d5 in this position. It's a blunder. It takes f6. D takes c4, d5, and the knight is in trouble. So probably this move, take rook g8, and queen h6, taking on h7. So black is in a serious trouble. Well, they can probably save their position with something like that. Castle. Well, the king is in trouble actually. So queen d5, you can check and then play knight c3, then use your other rook. There is nothing to talk about. So d5 cannot be played in this position. Neither knight g4 nor knight h5. So knight g8 is the only move, but then you continue with d5 and you dominate. If this move here, I kindly ask you to play this, not queen f4, which is attractive because you attack both. If queen f4, they can just play d5, and in case if you capture en passant, knight retreats and protects on f7 as well as attacks on c4. So queen e3, and if now d5, you just take en passant and take the advantage of the pin. For example, if they castle, queen takes, now they pin your queen. However, no worries, this move. And after c takes d6, just take on f7 to capture the rook. So king h8, and in this position you can take on e8 right away, or you can just deliver this check and capture with the queen on e8, exchange the queens, and play this position with extra rook. It's not required to learn, just keep in mind that knight e4, queen e3, and they are in the trouble. So if they don't play d6 here, here queen d2 of course. If they don't play d6 in this position, you should play either e5 or d5. Queen g2, in which position queen g2? There was no such a move. Okay, never mind, let's continue. So d6 is the best option, then knight c3, knight f6, castle, castle, and here you can, for example, continue with h3 and then play this simple plan. With a strong pressure. Yes, you are down a pawn, and if black plays properly, they are able to equalize, but they have to know how to play properly. They are likely to stay under the pressure for at least 10 moves more. So people usually retreat to a5, and if so, you play d4. E takes d4. This time you cannot capture with the pawn. It's illegal. Capturing with the knight doesn't make sense. Okay, there is a comment. Barry, can you please specify which position you are talking about? So here knight d4 doesn't work, because knight d4 doesn't offer 2 pawns in the center, and actually the initiative is lost. There are several moves. The one I suggest my students to play is this. After which, well, they usually take, which is a mistake. Here you continue with queen b3 and pressure f7. You can find some really interesting lines there. For example, queen e7, knight c3, and this is your next move. They have to take, queen takes, g7 is hanging, knight f6, bishop a3, d6, and e5, taking the advantage of the spin, later rook e1, and so on. If queen f6, e5, and or maybe bishop g5, but if e5 and they take, you play rook e1, and after d6, which is the only move to save the knight, you can just play this and capture this bishop on a5. So of course this is what you should learn. Okay, that was e takes d4. So e takes d4 castle. So in this position, knight g7 is a good move. C takes d4, d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, and in this position, it's bishop a3, preventing them from castling. So you see, in Evans' gambit, with each move, you create a threat. You force him to defend, and it's really hard to find the only moves for black. So bishop e6, bishop b5, and you intend to pressure with queen a4. So bishop b4, take on c6, take on b4, and attack both. So in this variation, you gain a pawn back and prevent him from castling. There is no much advantage, but can you imagine your opponent playing 16 moves according to the theory and still experience serious problems because they cannot castle? There are some lines where you can improve actually. And if, let's say, they continue with d6, just c takes d4 is enough. Well, you may say, what if after this move you play e5 and they play d5? Let me show you. Take, take, this, check. They have to block with the bishop, it's the only move. Bishop g5, attacking the queen. Queen has to move to d5, it's the only move. If, for example, queen d6, you play this move and knight e4 comes with a temper. So queen d5, but you still play knight bd2, and then knight comes to f6. For example, rook g7, knight e4, this is a threat. They cannot castle, it's illegal. And this is where they have to sacrifice the exchange with this or that move. So rook g6, you play this or you play that in order to take the rook. Oh, well, actually knight f6 doesn't work. They take, then take on c3. So you play knight h4 here in order to take there and to play knight f6. Because if they capture with the rook, it's knight f6 right away. So Evans Gambit is really a sharp opening, and if you learn it, it can offer a lot of good opportunities for you to defeat your opponent, because on a club player level, your opponent is unlikely to know all these lines. So you can play this opening up to 2000, against players up to 2000. However, Evans Gambit is often played by grandmasters. So last time I just demonstrated the game that Garry Kasparov outplayed Vishay Anand in Evans Gambit. Okay. Fine. Let's continue. By the way, if you want, for example, okay, good question. What happens if they don't accept the gambit? If they play this move, a4, threatening to trap. Taking on b4 leads to the same position as we analyzed, but with the pawn on a5. So these, they cannot play there. So bishop c5, c3, knight goes back, and d4. So you still get the same position, but with the pawn already on a5, which is usually in your favor. If a4, they play a5, b5. Knight goes there, you cannot take on e5, so if you take on e5, what happens? Who can tell me? Okay, I'm looking for your comments on YouTube and Twitch and the chess last. Okay. So queen e7, queen g5, of course, knight e5, queen g5, and then you lose on g2, which is decisive. So you can even get this checkmate. Of course, so I don't recommend this move. I recommend you to exchange. Then, well, if pawn takes, then the bishop is blocked. You can just play d3 and continue. If bishop takes, it's c3, and you still get 2 pawns in the center. If they play a6, let's say, c3, and then you play Italian game, but with one extra temper. You played b4 and they retreated with the bishop to b6. However, usually they retreat to a7. And later in the game, they are likely to spend a tempo on this move anyway. So then your plan is, let's say, knight f6, d3, then you castle, continue with knight bd2, rook e1, knight f1, and so on. Okay, so I think I answered your question. So that was what you should do in order to learn the openings. The next one, the next tip is solving puzzles. How to solve puzzles properly. Let me demonstrate. And I created a puzzle. Oh, well, actually, I took the puzzle from Neidorff variation of Sicilian defense. What do you think? What white should do in this position? So don't use the engine. White is able to obtain the advantage. At the moment, white is a pawn down, but they are able to obtain the advantage. So in other words, every time you solve the puzzle, the solution, the question sounds like that. Find the best move for white or for black. So how to solve this puzzle? So, okay, guys, yes, you are suggesting right move. It's g5, but before you make this move on the board as the solution, you should calculate the lines properly. Let's do it together. So, the best way to solve the puzzle is to calculate all the lines in your mind and only then make the moves on the board. So let me do this. Of course, I do not make any arrows when I solve puzzles on my own. So I'm just looking to a diagram and solve it. But for the purposes of the webinar, I'm going to draw the arrows. So g5, after which we understand that if only they move the knight away, we capture on d5 and gain a piece. That's why after this move we should analyze knight e3, which is the only continuation. Knight takes bishop. Well, taking this knight on e3 doesn't make sense, so we take the one on f6 and two pieces are under the attack. After that, there are two logical continuations. First of all, and we don't analyze what happens in case of bishop takes f6, because this is how they give up the knight on e3 and they will be a piece down, a piece for a pawn down. So knight g5, knight takes e3, g takes f6, and then they have two moves. One is knight f1, knight takes f1, attacking our queen. The other one is knight takes c2, which we are going to analyze a little bit later, so this one. So if knight f1 is played, we continue taking the bishop, and now the enemy queen is hanging as well. So they take our queen, we take their queen, promoting, it's a check. So rook takes d8, and then we capture on d2, let's say with the king. Let's calculate the number of pieces and pawns left on the board. So we don't calculate what we captured, but we calculate what left. So in that final position, white has two rooks and this knight on b3. So two rooks and the knight on b3. If speaking the number of pawns, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now they have only two rooks. All minor pieces are dead, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 rooks and 7 pawns. What means that we have 1 knight for 2 pawns. That's definitely a winning position for us. If not winning, then much better. Okay, now the second line. Knight g5, knight takes e3, g takes f6, knight takes c2. Queen takes c2, of course. It's a check. Bishop takes f6. We don't stop. We continue. Queen c6, check. And the rook is under attack, so they cannot block with the queen. They have to probably move the king to e7 or f8. Well, there is no big difference. Let's say e7. And then bishop takes a6. So we are capturing 1 more pawn. Now let's calculate the material left on the board. We have queen, 2 rooks. Let's say, okay, queen, 2 rooks. The knight is still on b3. And our bishop is still on a6. They have queen, 2 rooks, the bishop on f6. If speaking about the number of pawns, they have 6. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, it's a minor piece, a knight for 2 pawns, and it's still winning. After you calculated everything and picture it in your mind, then you may make the moves on the board. And if, for example, you solve the puzzle on Lichess or chess.com, it immediately replies. For example, like that, take there, take here, promote, rook takes, king d2. And you see, we have extra advantage. Is it clear for you how to solve the puzzles properly? Okay, fine. Let's do probably the last one. The last example is about visualization. So number 6 is visualization, and this is where you may solve puzzles. It helps a lot, and do some practical exercises. So you should really do tons of puzzles, but don't make the moves on the board. Otherwise, you don't improve your visualization, your ability to visualize. So, and if speaking about exercises, one of the exercises can be, for example, like that. So here I have the game. Where is it? Yeah, I have this game. The game played between Paul Murphy. He was actually, it's annotated game, and it contains variations. So, for example, when you analyze annotated game, which I kindly suggest you to do, you may, let's say here, you have knight g5 move on the board, and you have an annotated variation bishop a3. And I want you, actually it's 7th gambit, I want you to not make the variation on the board, but try to picture it in your mind. So, for example, here we have knight g5, but instead they could play bishop a3. So I do the arrows for you, but usually I don't do them myself. And if you can avoid, I mean, if you can do it without arrows, you'd better avoid them. So queen to f6, knight takes d4, and you are threatening to take on c6. In that position, they have 2 moves, bishop d7 or knight takes d4. For example, if knight takes d4 first, then c takes d4, the pawn goes to the center, black castles. Well, the position is approximately equal. Black king is pretty safe. Well, however, you may continue. You cannot continue with rook e1, unfortunately, because of the bishop here. So, well, yes, that position is approximately equal. The other line is bishop a3, queen f6, knight d4, and bishop d7. This is where you take on c6, and if they take with the bishop, you just play rook e1, adding extra pressure on e7. And this is where he is in the trouble, because he cannot do anything. So such lines that you can visualize and evaluate the position after that, I want you to do in your mind. And finally, my own exercise, my own technique. So, well, where we are now. So wait a sec. I need to refresh the chess. For some reason it's not working. It's not showing. Okay, now it works. Perfect. So let's solve this puzzle together. This is another way to visualize the position. This puzzle is quite simple. Of course, the answer is, well, you are attacking f8 and you are about to checkmate. You should just stop the attack. You should play bishop e8. And if they take with the rook, you take on f8 with a checkmate. So you take on f8 with a checkmate anyway. If you play this move, they move their bishop to e7, you still checkmate with queen f8. Bishop f8 and rook f8 is a mate. So the puzzle is actually quite simple. If you want, when you solve it, I can make the moves on the board and show it to you. Take, but rook checkmates. If they take, it's still not enough to defend the bishop. It's a checkmate. So this is the solution. What you should do now, when you solve such a puzzle, then you use the blank board, like that. And try to visualize it, where the pieces are. So your king is here. Your queen was on f5, your rook is on f1, the bishop is on f7, right? Here the pawns are... Oh, I don't remember the pawn structure, but I think they are like that. These two pawns are... doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter, but I think they are g2 and h3, right? Something like that. The enemy pieces are located. King here, queen there, the rook is on d8, the bishop is here, two pawns. Also 3 pawns there, a7, b7, c6. So now when you visualize the position, you should... Well, wait, here the pawn is on b2, according to what I remember. Then you should imagine the solution. It's bishop e8, rook takes e8, then queen takes f8, rook takes f8, and rook takes f8. This is a mate. So on a blank board, you should visualize it. Let's check if I did everything properly. Oh, I was mistaken. The pawn structure was different. Sorry. White pawn structure, but it didn't affect the position. That's why I didn't pay attention to it. And then when you do it on a blank board, you should, so it's here. You should close your eyes. Let me do this. You should close your eyes and try to picture the position in your head. So I'm going to pronounce where the pieces stay. White, first white, king g1, queen f5, rook f1, bishop on f7, pawns a2, b3, c5, g3, h2, black, king on h8, queen on c7, rook on d8, bishop on f8, pawns a7, b7, c6, g7, h7. White to move. The solution is bishop to e8. And if black captures on e8 with their rook, you continue with queen takes f8, check, rook takes f8, check, rook takes rook, checkmate. Or if instead of rook takes e8, for example, after bishop to e8, they continue with bishop e7, you still play queen to f8, check, bishop takes f8, rook takes bishop, and this is also a checkmate. So this is the solution. Try to first do it on a blank board, second do it with closed eyes or when you are not looking on the board. Okay, did you get it? Visualization with no pieces help because when you calculate a longer line, many pieces move to different places and you can forget about it. So sometimes all of the pieces are not on their original positions. Yeah. Oh, okay. So first you should learn the squares. The best way to learn is to record the game. When you record, let's say 100 of the games, you will definitely remember the notation. Okay, fine. So before we end with our webinar, let me one more time remind you about our online school. Okay, so here at chesslands.com you can order a free chess lesson with one of our coaches. For example, if you don't know who to choose, click coaches and choose the one you trust. Let's say it's International Master Borodlyub Zlatanovich. Here you can click book a test lesson or book a 1 hour lesson. A test lesson is free. We only charge you $2 that you will get back to your bank card after the lesson. So we just freeze this money and then we don't charge them. So you click book a test lesson, choose your coach. If you clicked on Borodlyub Zlatanovich, it will be him here. Then choose the time and enter your name, last name and email. And click proceed to the payment, then your bank card number, and this is how you book the class. A Zoom link will be, well, first you'll get a confirmation and the Zoom link will be delivered from 15 to 30 minutes before the class starts. Let me show you this. Let me copy this page to you. Okay, so there is a question. Let me answer it. So h6. So you mean h6 here? Yes, it doesn't avoid a checkmate. Here you checkmate with queen takes f8, king h7, and bishop g6. Because if he takes, you play queen f5, and that's it. Fine. And the last thing left. This is what John was talking, and I promised to answer later. So it's chess game aspects or types of the position or chess skills that you should improve. So we were talking about classification of the mistakes you play in the game you always make. Yes, that makes sense. So if you classify these mistakes, you can realize then what you struggle with, and then you'll be looking of how to improve. So maybe, well, actually, this is what you should feel according to your games. For example, what happens to you? Well, let's say you blunder. Why do you blunder? Try to answer this question. Whether you just don't understand what's going on the board, so you don't understand the position, or everything was good, but it was just a miscalculation. If it was a miscalculation, then puzzles and visualization will help. If you didn't understand the position, then you should decide what type of the position was. Was it a closed position, from which opening it appeared? And then you should either ask a coach to teach you to play this type of the position, or you should analyze some annotated games played in the same opening or in similar positions. And it affects the skills that you are going to improve in chess. So for example, if it was just a miscalculation, you should work on tactics and tactical vision and calculation, of course, these three aspects. So just do tons of puzzles and calculate longer variations, deep variations. If you didn't know which plan to apply, then it's about a positional understanding. And this is where a coach help is required. If you don't want to get a higher coach, then probably you can read a book or enroll into a course where it's explained how to play with such type of the position. So this is what you should do. So for today I actually prepared 2 games, but I have no time to analyze them actually. So one more thing I forgot to tell you. It's good that we have screen that I am sharing the screen. So for example, it was Evans Gambit I taught you, which starts with moves like that, b4. And when you learn this opening, the second stage is to learn the typical plans. How to do this? You go to database chessbase.com. Then you set up this position, 3 knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, b4, and then click search. And it shows the number of the games played. Oh, recently Sergei Jigalka defeated Wesley So. So the game is here and you can continue watching it. So you see it was d6, queen b3, queen d7. So, and by analyzing these games, you learn it. So you can even download the PGN. Well, you cannot here. That's why I recommend you to install a software, ChessBase here, and download a database. It will be easier for you. For example, like I have here Mega Database 2021. You click board, then you play the moves on the board, then you filter, and you are looking for this position, and only for the games where white won. If you learn the opening for white, it should be either white won. Yeah, it should be white won. If you're looking for opening for black, it should be either black won or a draw. And also, we shouldn't look for the games played by amateurs. We should be looking at for the games where at least one of the players is grandmaster and he won. So you click OK, and then you see the list. So start with annotated games. For example, this one is annotated. It explains something. You can also filter by date and choose something most recent. Well, you see, I didn't update this database. Some Blitz games. Yeah, so tons of games. A lot of players play Evans Gambit. And another thing you can do here, online database, which contains all recent games. For example, the game between Sergei Zhigalko and Wesley So exists. And this is where you can use PGN, you can copy it, you can upload it, for example, to Lichess or to chess.com archive, anywhere like that. So Zhigalko, Wesley So, fine. Van Forest lost. Sindarov outplayed Alexeyenko. Alexeyenko is a good theoretical player actually, but it was Blitz probably because of that. Caruana lost to Wesley So. Carlson, even Carlson played it in 2020 against Sanan Sigurov. Bishop e2, so he plays like Garry Kasparov. Okay, so, and this is how you build your own database. Okay, guys, do you have any questions for me? This is where I would like to stop, to finish our webinar. If you have any questions, I am ready to answer them. Once again, let me copy the link to our website where you can book a free class. And if you have any questions, you can always message me at school@chesslance.com or at tricksofchess@gmail.com. So on these two emails. And if you have any suggestions of what we should do on our next webinar, also please message me. Okay, if there are no questions, let's finish for today. So probably next time I'm going to conduct a simul. If you have any other suggestions, well, you're welcome to suggest. One more thing I forgot to tell you actually, guys, and if you are still here, it's good because it's really important. So we decided to schedule our next tournament with money prizes actually on the 23rd of October. So if you want to register there, don't forget to do this. Of course, I'll send a mailing for you maybe in a few days or maybe next week, but this is what you should remember. And we also have money prizes, and even 4th and the 5th place are awarded with free lessons with the FIDE Master. So you're welcome. Okay, see you next Sunday.